Alejandra Alexander from Century 21 All Islands, and this is my colleague Preston Sims from Prospect Mortgage, and we're here at Town in Honolulu, just having some dinner, and actually not dinner, lunch. I'm ahead of myself. Excuse me. We're here having lunch, and we're going to pick Preston's brain about how to go about getting qualified for a mortgage when you're ready to buy your next home or your first home, and what steps you should take and pitfalls to avoid. So tune in. Hi, Preston.
Hi. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah. How's it going today?
Awesome. Really good.
Another beautiful day in paradise.
Sure is.
So, if I'm a buyer, let's say I'm a first-time buyer, I've never dealt with the sales process before.
Okay.
What am I looking for when I shop for a mortgage?
So there are a few really big things that you want to look at when you're trying to find a good mortgage lender. First of all, you're gonna, like anything, you're gonna want to check their reviews. You're gonna want to look around. You're gonna, see if they're on Yelp or Zillow. Look at their reviews. Look at feedback from other people. That's always good. And usually the first thing people will think is interest rate. Who has the lowest interest rate? And you know what? Interest rate is really important, and that's a really good thing to check. But you also need to check out their fees, because sometimes if they have the lowest interest rate and they have really high fees, sometimes it will kind of cancel out.
Right.
So sometimes it's a little bit better, to look at the whole picture. You need to figure out what's the rate, what are their fees, what's their reputation. And another big thing you want to figure out is, do I want to use a broker or do I want to go to a mortgage bank? Now, at Prospect Mortgage, we are a mortgage bank, and I think the real benefit of that is we fund and underwrite our own loans. And what that means to our clients is that everything is in-house. So we're working with people that we know, that we trust, that do this for a living. Mortgages aren't just one product that we offer, it's all we do. And so if we have any issues, we can escalate it, we can bring in the big guns. So that's a really good thing about a mortgage bank, and that's personally why I would recommend going with a mortgage bank.
What are these fees that are being charged by either your company or other companies? What does that mean? What does it encompass?
When you're buying a home, there's going to be lots of different fees. Now, the fees in particular that I'm talking about are lender fees. So different lenders and different banks will charge different fees to process and underwrite your loan. So those are usually the big ones, is processing and underwriting. And now another fee that you want to pay attention to is discount points.
Okay.
And basically what that means is you can pay additional money to get a better interest rate.
Okay.
And so it kind of depends on what your goal is. If you want to have a really low payment, a really low mortgage payment, it might make sense to pay for points and get a lower rate.
Okay.
But if you're going to sell the house in maybe just a few years, it might not make sense to pay all those additional fees.
Okay. So I see this a lot with especially first-time home buyers who are seeing the super low interest rates and thinking, I really should get in there, but they're sort of apprehensive about going through the process, and they don't understand if there's any benefits or not to going to get pre-approved.
Okay.
So what would you say to a person who's like, I might want to buy, but I don't know, should I go through the process? I don't want my credit to get dinged, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess the first way to answer that question is, if you're serious about buying a home, you're going to have to get pre-approved.
Right.
This is a very seller-friendly market right now. Our inventory on Oahu is pretty low. Sellers want to know that you're capable and ready to buy. So when you submit an offer, they're going to be asking for a pre-approval letter pretty much every time. So that's the first answer, is sellers are pretty much going to require it.
Okay.
Now, the second reason it's really prudent to get pre-approved is you can figure out what options are available. You might think that, you don't make enough money to buy, or your credit's not good enough. And that might not be the case. There are a lot of programs with different down payment requirements, different credit requirements. And, if now is not the time, we can help set you up to get ready to buy down the road. the first part of the home buying process is usually the education process.
Right.
It usually takes some time to get educated and ready to buy, and usually the first step is figuring out what financing options are available.
Okay. I see this so much that people think you have to have 20% down to buy a home. So is that true? And if not, why?
Okay, I'm really glad you asked that question. Because it's not true. You do not need 20% down to buy a home. It's just flat out a myth. So, there are lots of different programs with different down payment requirements. There are some that require 0% down, 100% financing. And there are others, maybe it does require 20% down, and everything in between. So it really will depend on your credit, what area you're buying in, believe it or not. If you're a vet, for example, there's going to be different loan options. So there will be a lot of factors, but you do not need 20% down to buy.
It really depends on which kind of loan program you're going to be using for your mortgage. That determines what kind of down payment that's going to be required. So talk to your loan officer about what programs you qualify for. Okay, so once you're approved for your mortgage and you're shopping around for houses, let's say you put in an offer on your home and you're in escrow, which means you're in the process of executing the contract that you signed to buy the home. What are some financial no-nos that you do not want to do during this period of time?
Okay, that's an awesome question. So the federal regulations for mortgages right now are pretty strict. In 2009, as a lot of people know, the market kind of collapsed, and federal regulators really clamped down on the restrictions on getting mortgages. And so right now there's definitely a lot of things that you want to avoid, so that we don't have any issues. A couple of the big ones would be, opening any new lines of credit, signing up for a new credit card, taking out a loan for a new car. If you want to do that, it's great. Just don't do it while you're in escrow. Wait until you close. It's good to avoid transferring any money between accounts.
Okay.
That's a really good one. In general, you don't really want people checking your credit because we get a notification if your credit's being run.
Okay.
So that's good because that can actually ding your credit a little bit. That can have an impact. You don't want to co-sign on a loan with anybody while you're in escrow. Again, a lot of these things are great after we close.
Okay.
Those are probably the biggest ones.
This is something that I think a lot of real estate agents come across, especially in a seller's market. We're in a seller's market right now. So inventory is very low, and a lot of buyers are finding that they're having to make offers on several properties because, you make an offer and you don't win and you have to move on to the next property. So one question I had for you is how long does that pre-approval letter from you guys, from the bank or whoever, how long does that last?
Short answer is usually 90 days.
Okay.
And after that, it's really just a matter of maybe getting some updated paperwork. And then occasionally we will need to run a new credit report. Those are good for 90 days. So that's, and it's really not much more difficult than that. It's maybe just getting some updated paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So on a personal note, why did you choose to make Hawaii your home?
That's a good question. Well, I came out here initially for college. I went to HPU.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Once you live out here, it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
So I came out here on a soccer scholarship, and then started surfing, and then just kind of got that bug. Never really wanted to leave.
Yeah. And so how long have you lived here now?
So I've been in Hawaii off and on for about 8 years.
Nice.
I tried to leave once, and then I couldn't do it, so I came back.
Nice. I've been here for the same amount of time, and we were college rivals. I was UH Manoa, and I'm from Alaska, and couldn't go back to that. Paradise is my home now, and I hope I can help you find your piece of paradise too. Thank you for tuning in to Aloha TV, and have a wonderful day.